everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin Street Journal Market Update. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Zuba. We're thrilled to be diving into the week's hottest Bitcoin news with you.
That's right, Zuba. This week, we're breaking down everything from corporate Bitcoin adoption to ETF flows and, well, yeah, you name it. We'll try to keep it as chill and as interesting as possible, so no snooze fests allowed, okay?
Absolutely, Chloe. Think of this as your backstage pass to understanding what's really moving the Bitcoin market. So buckle up, grab your coffee, and let's get started.
So, Zuba, let's jump right in. What's the buzz on Bitcoin's performance lately?
Well, Chloe, Bitcoin's been all over the place, hasn't it? We saw it hit a recent high, pushing past $110,000, which, let's be real, was pretty exciting, but it didn't stick around there for long. We've also seen it dip, down to around $100,000. It's like a roller coaster.
Totally. What do you think is driving these crazy swings? Any big events or factors we should be looking at?
Oh, for sure. I think a lot of it has to do with the overall market sentiment. There's been some chatter about inflation and potential interest rate hikes, which always makes investors a little jittery. And, don't forget about all the regulatory stuff that's constantly in the news. That definitely plays a part too.
Right. It's always something with Bitcoin, isn't it? Just when you think you've got a handle on it, something else pops up and throws everything for a loop.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, let's talk about these companies that are actually putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets. It's not just talk anymore,
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. I've been seeing a few names pop up. Semler Scientific, right? And wasn't there something about Metaplanet too?
Exactly. Semler Scientific. They just keep buying more Bitcoin. They seem super convinced it's the way to go. And Metaplanet, they're practically making it their whole strategy. I mean, what's driving this? Are they just massive Bitcoin maximalists, or is there something else?
I think for some, it's the whole store of value narrative, right? With inflation worries and traditional assets feeling shaky, Bitcoin starts looking like a pretty good hedge. And, the potential for long-term gains is a big draw too, of course.
Right. So basically, they're seeing Bitcoin as a way to protect their assets from, the craziness of the traditional financial system.
Exactly. And it sends a message, doesn't it? When major corporations start taking Bitcoin seriously, it sort of, legitimizes the whole thing for other investors and, well, for the public. Oh, if they're doing it, maybe we should pay attention.
Yeah, it's like a snowball effect. More companies adopt Bitcoin, more people take it seriously, and before you know it, it's just a normal part of corporate finance. Kind of crazy to think about, actually.
So, Zuba, how much of this whole corporate adoption thing is being driven by Bitcoin ETFs? I mean, are these ETFs really moving the needle in terms of institutional investment?
Oh, definitely, Chloe. I think the ETFs are a huge part of it. They've basically, opened up Bitcoin to a whole new class of investors who maybe weren't comfortable holding it directly, right? So now they can get exposure through these ETFs.
Right. It's that accessibility factor. Easier to buy shares than set up a whole crypto wallet and, figure out private keys and everything.
Exactly. And we've seen, some pretty impressive inflow trends, huge amounts of capital pouring into these ETFs. And that absolutely has an impact on market stability. More demand it soaks up volatility and helps stabilize the price.
Okay. So more institutional money coming in kind of helps to calm things down a bit. Makes sense. I saw something about BlackRock launching Bitcoin ETF futures. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's another big step. Futures contracts basically allow institutions to hedge their positions or, speculate on future price movements. It's all about adding more sophisticated financial tools to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
So, it's maturing, right? More tools, more players, more stability, in theory at least.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, you still got to watch out for those black swan events. But the overall trend is definitely towards, greater institutional involvement and increased market sophistication. What about pro shares seeking approval for Circle stock ETFs?
Oh, that's interesting. So, if approved, regular investors could buy shares of Circle, the company that makes USDC, without directly buying stablecoins. It's kind of like a proxy for investing in the stablecoin market.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, how sensitive is Bitcoin to all the geopolitical stuff going on?
Hugely. I mean, it's a risk asset, right? So any whiff of global uncertainty or economic tension, that sends ripples through the crypto market.
Like what? Give me the example.
Well, think about trade talks, right? The US and China trade talks we were seeing earlier. If those fall apart or there's, increased tariffs or something, people get nervous.
Right, because it signals potential economic slowdown.
Exactly. And in that kind of environment, some investors, not all, of course, but some start looking for safe havens, and increasingly people are viewing Bitcoin as a potential hedge against all that broader economic stuff.
So like a digital gold kind of thing, people run into it when things look shaky.
That's the idea. It's still evolving, of course, but yeah, it's a place to park some capital, maybe outside the traditional financial system when there's a lot of uncertainty in the air.
Okay, so shifting gears here, let's talk regulation. Because that's always hanging over the crypto world, right?
Always. It's the one constant in this space is the looming threat of some new regulation.
So what's the latest? I saw something about stable coins.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things, actually. The EU, there's talk of them potentially, banning privacy coins and anonymous crypto accounts by 2027.
Wow, that's pretty significant. So, no more Monero in Europe?
That's the idea. Yeah, it's all part of their anti-money laundering efforts. They're trying to crack down on anything that makes it harder to track transactions.
Makes sense, I guess, but a little scary for the whole, decentralization thing, right?
For sure, for sure. And then on the other side of the world, in South Korea, they're actually moving ahead with plans for their own stablecoin regulations.
Oh, really? So, the opposite direction?
Almost. They want to become a leader in crypto. So they're creating a framework for stablecoins, to foster innovation but still keep things safe and secure.
So, it's not all doom and gloom on the regulatory front, I guess.
Nope, not always. And hey, we can't forget the weird stuff either, right?
Oh, God, what now?
Remember that whole Trump-branded crypto wallet thing? It was all over the news for a bit.
Oh, yeah, that was a mess. I heard there was some drama with his sons sending cease and desist or something.
Yeah, it was getting messy. Gotta love crypto, eh?
All right, let's dive into the more technical side of things, which is actually where I get kind of lost.
Don't we all, Chloe? Don't we all? So, what's new in Bitcoin land, tech-wise?
So I saw that there's been an increase in the OP return data storage limit. What's that about?
Oh, yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal for developers. So basically, OP return, it's a way to store data on the Bitcoin blockchain, but it's usually a pretty small amount.
Okay.
So now they've increased the limit, meaning you can store more data, nearly 4 megabytes now with the Core 30 update. It basically opens up Bitcoin to, new kinds of applications that aren't just about sending money.
Interesting. So what kind of applications are we talking about?
Well, you could do like better supply chain tracking, or like decentralized social media stuff. All sorts of things that need a bit more data storage.
Gotcha. So bigger blocks for bigger ideas, I think.
Exactly. And then there's also like the ongoing debate about Bitcoin's security model, which is kind of a biggie, especially with like the halving and all that.
Right, because everyone's always worried about, what happens when the block rewards get like super small.
Exactly. So the question is, will transaction fees be enough to keep miners incentivized to secure the network? Some people are worried, some aren't. It's the eternal Bitcoin debate.
And I saw something about Tether getting involved with mining tech.
Yeah, Tether as in like USDT Tether, they're planning to open source their Bitcoin mining operating system.
Oh, interesting. Why would they do that?
Well, the idea is to kind of empower smaller and mid-sized miners, make it easier for them to compete and, decentralize the mining landscape a bit more.
Okay, so basically more tools for building on Bitcoin and, keeping the network secure. Sounds good to me.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some other cryptos. What's going on with the altcoins?
Yeah, so I've been keeping an eye on Solana, especially with all the ETF buzz.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that. What's the latest?
Well, there's speculation that Solana ETFs could be approved in like maybe 3 to 5 weeks. The SEC is, supposedly signaling some openness to staking, which is huge for Solana.
Really? Why is that so important?
Because, staking is a big part of the Solana ecosystem. And if the SEC approves ETFs that can actually participate in staking, it could bring a ton of institutional money into Solana.
So it's kind of like a green light for big investors to, get involved.
Exactly. And that could be massive for the price of SOL.
Makes sense. What about Ripple? Anything interesting happening with XRP?
Oh yeah, Ripple's been busy as always. Guggenheim Treasury, they're bringing their tokenized debt instrument to the XRP ledger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think this is actually a pretty big deal because it kind of shows how XRP is starting to be used for real-world financial applications.
So more than just, moving money around.
Exactly. It's like actually integrating into the traditional financial system, which is like kind of what everyone's been talking about for ages.
And Ethereum, still the DeFi king?
Well, yeah, Ethereum has always got something going on. I think the big story there is that Ethereum ETFs are surging past like $1.5 billion.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, which is kind of a signal that Ethereum might be about to outperform Bitcoin. I mean, who knows, but that's what people are talking about. There's just so much going on in the ETH ecosystem.
Okay, so we've talked about the markets, the alts, and, what institutions are up to, but what about the really big players? I'm talking whales, Zuba.
Ah, yes, the whales, the mysterious movers and shakers of the crypto world.
Right. What have they been doing lately? Any big moves that we should be paying attention to?
Well, there's been some interesting stuff happening, actually. I saw that, like, 220 million ADA, that's Cardano, right, were accumulated by whales in just 2 days.
Whoa, that's a lot. What do you think they're planning?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It could mean they're expecting a major breakout for Cardano, or, it could be something completely different. It's hard to say for sure what their strategy is.
Yeah, but it's always worth watching when those kind of big players make a move. It usually means something's up.
Definitely. And, it's not just Cardano, Chloe. I've also noticed some large Bitcoin transactions, but kind of like the opposite.
What do you mean? Selling?
Yeah, some analysts are saying long-term Bitcoin holders have been taking profits recently. Bitfinex even put out a report about it.
So are they thinking a market correction might be coming?
It's possible. Or, maybe they're just de-risking. taking some gains off the table after this rally. I mean, if you've been holding Bitcoin for years, hitting these highs again is pretty good time to secure some profits, you know?
Yeah, true. But I always get a little nervous when I see the big guys start selling. Makes you wonder if they know something we don't.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to keep an eye on these transactions, even if it's just to stay informed. You never know when one of these whale moves can cause a ripple effect in the market.
Yeah, okay. Well, definitely something to keep an eye on. All right, let's jump into risks now, shall we?
So we've been talking about all these positive vibes, Chloe, but what about the flip side? Are there any potential potholes ahead? Any, serious risks we should be aware of?
Always, Zuba, always. Crypto's never like a straight shot to the moon, right? So what's the word on potential market dips?
Well, I did see that Matthew Hyland, the analyst, he's pointing to a bearish divergence on Bitcoin's charts.
Oh yeah, that sounds ominous. What does that even mean for the average listener?
Basically, the price is going up, but the momentum isn't, keeping pace. It's kind of like running out of steam.
Hmm. So is he predicting a major drop?
He's suggesting it could fall back to around $90,000, which, in crypto terms is kind of significant.
Ouch. Okay, so if that happens, what should people do? Panic sell?
No. Definitely not panic sell, Chloe. This is where, risk management comes in. If you're trading, consider setting stop loss orders to limit your downside. And if you're a long-term holder, just, remember why you invested in the first place and try not to get shaken out by short-term volatility.
Right. Zoom out, look at the big picture. That's what everyone always says.
Exactly. It's also, kind of important to remember that analysts' forecasts are just that, forecasts. They're not guaranteed.
Yeah, nobody has a crystal ball, right?
Right. So it's always smart to do your own research and not base all your decisions solely on, one person's opinion.
So basically, stay informed, manage your risk, and don't freak out if things get a little bumpy. Sounds like pretty solid advice for navigating the crypto world in general.
You got it, Chloe.
All right, Zuba, so we've dodged the potholes. Now, what's the road ahead looking like? I mean, crystal ball time. What's your take on where Bitcoin's headed?
Well, crystal balls are kind of cloudy, but I've been digging into some long-term forecasts. It's interesting, right?
Oh, yeah? Lay it on us.
Okay, so Bitwise CEO, he's been pretty vocal about his views and thinks that, he says Bitcoin could see some major trading volume increases.
That's a bullish. So what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
Right, so volume is one thing, price is another. When it comes to actual price targets, it's all over the map, Like, some analysts are still sticking to those crazy high numbers for 2025, like 6 figures, easy.
6 figures? Still, even with all the ups and downs we've been seeing?
Yeah, it's a lot of hopium, right? But, there are still some big believers out there. It's all based on, continued adoption, institutional interest, and, of course, those good old supply and demand dynamics.
Okay, so best case scenario, we're talking moon? What is the most realistic upside?
See, that's the million-dollar question, Chloe. If, and that's a big if, everything lines up perfectly, new all-time highs are definitely within reach. But, expect volatility along the way. This is crypto after all.
Right. So buckle up, expect the unexpected, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be talking about Bitcoin at $250,000 this time next year.
Maybe, just maybe. But always remember to do your own homework, people. This is not financial advice. Just two people spitballing about the future of digital gold.
Okay, Zuba, that was one wild ride through the Bitcoin streets. So just to kind of wrap it all up,
What are your final thoughts on where Bitcoin is right now?
Well, it's kind of like Bitcoin's at a crossroads, right? We're seeing all this institutional interest, the ETFs, the companies adding it to their balance sheets, but we're still dealing with those regulatory questions and, of course, the volatility.
Yeah, it's a complex picture, to say the least. Lots of potential, but lots of risks too.
Exactly. It's like you can't just jump in without knowing what you're getting into, right?
So what's the takeaway?
Just stay informed, do your research, and, don't bet the farm on anything. It's a marathon, not a sprint, people.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Zuba. And hey, listeners, we want to hear from you. What did you think of our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin today? What other topics would you want us to tackle in the future? Hit us up on social media. Our DMs are always open.
Yeah, seriously, let us know what you're thinking. We're always looking for new ideas, new angles, whatever's going to help us make this podcast even better.
And before we sign off, make sure you're following the Bitcoin Street Journal Market Update wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms, and we're dropping new episodes every week, so you definitely don't want to miss out.
Big thanks to everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate you spending your time with us while you listen about Bitcoin stuff.
Absolutely. And until next time, keep stacking those sats. Responsibly, of course.
Peace out, Bitcoiners. See you on the next block.